Hello, everyone. It's Pam Esquire, also known as Your Law Intellect. And today we are going to be discussing the sentencing of Jussie Smollett and some of the comments that have been going around on the internet on whether they believe the sentencing is fair. As you know, on this channel, we talk all things legal from the neighborhood to Hollywood. And this will probably be a mixture of both the neighborhood and Hollywood. So, what I want you to do is, I want you to subscribe, I want you to like, share, and tell all of your friends that the law intellect is on. Now, I am a firm believer in grace and mercy. I am a firm believer of fairness. When I did do criminal law, I did it on the defense side. So there were several times that I had to negotiate with prosecutors. I had to beg for leniency and whatever else needed to be done so that my client will pay the least amount of a consequence as could possibly be had. Okay. So I understand the outcry. I understand people being upset that Jussie Smollett got 150 days that he had to do in jail. But what I'm beginning to understand is that I think people don't know how the system actually works. I mean, we listen to the judge's long dissertation before he came to the actual sentencing. People were upset about that, but trust me, judges do it all the time, especially in high profile cases. This is their time to say what they feel, how they feel, and why they're sentencing the way that they're sentencing based on what they saw. And so in this case, we all know what the outcome is. And now there is a hashtag going around to free Jussie Smollett because he was ordered to the county jail for 150 days, which he'll probably only do half of. But nevertheless, he was ordered to do some time. So let's start out with, what was Jussie Smollett even charged with in the first place? Let's start with that. So Jussie Smollett was charged with disorderly conduct, and it was section 26-1, subpart 4, which says transmits or causes to be transmitted in any manner to any peace officer, public officer, or public employee a report to the effect that an offense will be committed, is being committed, or has been committed, knowing at the time of the transmission that there is no reasonable ground for believing that the offense will be committed, is being committed, or has been committed. So that's what the charge was. And as we know, Jussie Smollett was convicted on 5 of 6 counts. He was found guilty on telling the police officer he was a hate crime victim, telling an officer he was a battery victim, telling the detective he was a hate crime victim, telling the detective that he was a battery victim, telling the detective again he was a battery victim, and then he was found not guilty on telling a second detective he was aggravated battery victim. And so those are what the actual charges were and what he was convicted of. So a jury of his peers, it was not the judge, it was not the special prosecutor just brought the case. It was a jury that his team and the special prosecutor together picked this jury out. And these were the people that said, we basically didn't believe your story and we believe that you're guilty. So he's convicted of a felony category 4, which basically is the lowest felony, as the judge said, in the state of Illinois. So this is how we got where we got. So what are some of the punishment according to the scales that he would have been subjected to as a consequence of this crime. So let's see here. Under the Legislative Research Unit, we can see that as a class 4 felony, it could be 1 to 3 years in prison. If you go over under probation, up to 2.5 years in probation, so that's the 30 months, and 25 years, I'm sorry, $25,000 maximum fine. So this is according to the Illinois General Assembly. So now we know what he could have been facing. But then also under the specific statutes, that's just kind of a guideline to give you an idea. They also have additional punishments that may occur. And I think the judge mentioned those during his sentencing hearing. But on top of those, well, I'm not going to say on top of, but there's, as you see, there's a wide range of consequences that can be levied on you, right? So what the judge does have to do when determining a sentence is they have to also consider what's called aggravated factors and mitigating factors. So the prosecutor, as what happened in this case, they're expected to argue the aggravating factors, which is basically there are circumstances that should give him the harsh penalty. And they will argue the presence of things that say that you made this case more serious or dangerous that supports a harsh punishment. And there's a whole list under Illinois Statute 730 ILCS 555-3.2. Okay. But then the judge also has to consider mitigating factors, which is what the defense attorney is going to bring. So with those mitigating factors, that's under 730 ILCS 555-3.1 if you just want to look at it on your spare time to see what those lists are. But there's exhausting lists of mitigating and aggravating factors. And mitigating factors, they're going to say, hey, there are some factors that explains or justify the conduct, or that would suggest that he should have a lenient punishment. So that was the argument we saw back and forth between the prosecutor and the defense, right? So what the judge did in this case, he acknowledged that there was a presumption of probation that everyone has been talking about, but he said that there were serious aggravating factors. And during his sentence, he listed those factors. He said, your premeditation, the pain you cause real victims of hate crimes, the damage he's done to the city of Chicago, your performance on the witness stand. He said it can only be described as pure perjury. So he was going to take those into consideration when he did his sentencing. And then he also mentioned that if he wanted to, he could send them to the penitentiary, not county jail. He said, I have enough factors right here that if I wanted to, I could send you and justify sending you to prison for those 1 to 3 years. That's supposed to be how bad, according to him, these aggravating factors were. But then he also had to acknowledge that there were mitigating factors. So he took into account Mr. Smollett's community service. Of course, we had all these great letters from Jesse Jackson and the NAACP and Innocence Project. So he said he took those into consideration. So once he took that into consideration, he came up with the sentence that everybody feels is unfair right now. Well, not everybody, but some people. Some people believe that it was a fair sentence, that he could have got more, or he should have got more. But what Jussie ultimately got was the 30 months of probation. But I think what we're not understanding is that the 150 days in jail is a part of the probation. So he's spending the first 150 days of his probation in the county jail. So really, by the time it's all over, that's 5 months. He will have 25 months left of probation. Okay, so this was all really a probation type of a sentence, but he had the discretion of up to, I think it's 180 days that he could have had him do that first part of the probation in jail. And so he chose that you do your first 150 days, I believe, in jail. That's pretty much what happened. And then he got to pay restitution of 120 because that's what the prosecution requested. And then that fine that we saw up to 25,000, you got to pay the whole 25,000. And then we also have to remember though that probation, he don't have the ordinary probation that we might see in our neighborhood. Our ordinary probation is you gonna come in, you check in, you got to do drug tests, alcohol tests, you can't travel where you want to, all of that. He basically told Jussie, you can travel because I know that that's what your job and your livelihood is. So he has somewhat of a lenient type of a probation for those 25 months that he will be on probation once he gets out. So I hear a lot of other people say like, oh, well, this sentencing was just way too harsh. No one does this type of time for this type of a crime. This is always what you get probation for. They're just trying to send a message to him. I mean, I've heard all type of things on the internet, but as you see from what I explained, there was a lot that's put into. You don't automatically just get probation. It's not a cookie cutter type of a system because that wouldn't be fair to those who actually admit that they've done something wrong and then don't go to trial and again plea. I mean, that's what a deal is. A deal is you try to get less than what you may face if you go to trial. But people keep saying that all these other people, don't get this type of treatment, but I'm trying to figure out who these other people are. Nobody has come with statistics. Nobody has come with anything to see like how many of these people were in the same situated position as Jussie Smollett and got a less harsh of a punishment. Because I did some research and we all know that only 5% of cases, felony cases, go to trial. 5% in the nation. So therefore, most of the people that they're talking about probably pled, which Jussie Smollett did not do in this case. But I actually did find an interesting case of someone that was pretty much accused of something similar to what Jussie Smollett had done. I found an article. Let's look at this article. Okay, we have Robert Spearing who faked Oprah tickets. And let me read this article. So this was in 2011. A Canadian man faces felony charges after making up a story about being beaten and robbed of his Oprah farewell spectacular tickets in Chicago. According to police, Robert Spearing, 44, was taken to Stroger Hospital Tuesday after telling Chicago police that two people beat him and stole his passes to the star-studded show near Madison and Wood Streets. And this is from the Chicago Tribune reports. He later recanted, telling police he wasn't beaten and never had tickets to the event. He didn't want his wife to be mad at him. This is the reason why he faked all this. He didn't want his wife to know that he didn't get the tickets to the Oprah show. And so he said he got robbed. So Police Lieutenant Kenneth Stopper told the Chicago Sun-Times the couple reportedly came from Ontario for the show, and Spearing believed he would be able to buy tickets outside the United Center. When he realized that was not the case, he made up this story. He allegedly scraped his hands on the sidewalk and used a rock to make a small cut on his forehead in order to make the attack more believable. Spearing was charged with felony disorderly conduct and for filing a false police report. He was ordered to be held on $20,000 bond on Wednesday and is due back in court next week. Okay. So this man did similar to, he didn't say a hate crime or anything like Jussie Smollett, but he did lie in order to uh he lied and pretended that he got robbed just because he didn't want to tell his wife he didn't get Oprah tickets. So he got charged. I'm not sure if they made that 2 counts, but from my understanding is disorderly conduct is the charge, and then up under the reason you had disorderly conduct is for filing a false police report. But the way they have and in the article, it looked like it might have been 2 charges, but I believe it's one. And one of the reasons why I believe it's one is because this same individual got no jail time because who faked Oprah's ticket robbery. And according to the article, it says the man who told police he'd been beaten by thieves who stole his tickets to Oprah Winfrey's last show rather than tell his wife he had none for the show won't be going to jail. Robert Spearing, 44, appeared in Chicago court Friday and was granted a conditional discharge after pleading guilty to felony disorderly conduct. He will be allowed to live in Ontario during the 12 months of supervised release. Conviction on the charge can mean up to 3 years in jail. And yeah, they go on to talk about what he was accused of doing and that he later recanted his story. So my point is, people, and then he pled to 1 count of disorderly conduct. So he was able to get probation, and yes, he is a white man, but his situation was different. He told his story. He later recanted, but it wasn't after hundreds, well, thousands of dollars, what it was, $120,000 were spent on continuously trying to make people believe this charade. He recanted, he pled to 1 count, and then he got probation. So basically, what people are trying to say that a person such as Jussie Smollett, who went on a whole television campaign on his innocence, said, I want my day in court in front of a jury, went before a jury of his peers, was convicted, allegedly, according to the judge, it appears he was lying on the stand. Plus, he has aggravating factors. This gentleman didn't have aggravating factors that I could read from the information that I saw. But everyone feels like he should get the same sentence as someone like this. That's just not how this system works. So I just want you to see like individuals that do get probation and what some of the circumstances are. And once you see those circumstances, then you may still think, hey, he still shouldn't do no jail time. I mean, that's your opinion, but I just want you to have a full picture of what was going on here. The moral of the story is all cases are not created equal. The judge had discretion. He could have done worse than what he did. I think he was somewhere in the middle with what he had done, and the probation was actually more lenient than what any probation typically is. And then we had like Taraji P Henson, who, I get it, that's your homeboy, that was your TV son, but what she said was very insulting. You can go ride for people and rock with people and have their back regardless to what they've done. But to make it as if this is a comparison to Emmett Till, a young, innocent boy who lost his life, like that just shouldn't even happen. And I'm gonna tell you specifically what Taraji said. She said, I am not here to debate you on his innocence, but we can agree that the punishment does not fit the crime. Emmett Till was brutally beaten, ultimately murdered because of a lie, and none of the people involved with his demise spent 1 day in jail, even after Carolyn Bryant admitted that her claims were false. No one was hurt or killed during Jussie's ordeal. He has already lost everything, and she has in caps everything. To me, as an artist, not to be able to create that in itself is punishment enough. He can't get a job. No one in Hollywood will hire him. And again, as an artist who loves to create, that is a prison. My prayer is that he is freed and put on house arrest and probation, because in this case, that would seem fair. Fair based on what, Taraji? And then she has hashtag free Jussie. The only thing I can come up with is because he's a celebrity that you think that's fair. I don't understand why she thinks that him being on house arrest after all of this, he should get the same as someone who admits their guilt, pleads out, and doesn't drag this on for years. It's been a couple of years since this first happened. But hopefully she can review this video and see why what she's saying makes absolutely no sense. And I get it. We have her family who is out here free Jussie. Even if you don't believe that he's innocent, he shouldn't be in jail. Based on what? Why do you feel like that? You have no backing for that. And we cannot keep saying because of the injustice that has occurred and still occurs, we're not negating that fact. But that doesn't give you the right, because they got out or they didn't get charged the way they were supposed to, then he shouldn't get charged either. That's not an argument. But what the judge had was clear law and fact to do the sentencing the way that he did. And he did not go outside of the guidelines. I've had judges in cases that went above and beyond the guideline because they just felt the whole situation was more egregious. And they came with a whole memo on why they think it should be way above what even the statute says, or why they should be above what the recommended sentencing was from the probation department. So the fact that he didn't do that, I'm not sure what people are expecting. Now, what the judge did say that was concerning to me was, quote, I have never seen the police put this type of work in, even in some murder cases. So basically, the judge admitted that the Chicago Police Department put in all this work because it was Jussie Smollett. But they don't even put this type of work in murder cases. These are what makes Jussie so special that me, my neighbor, my friends' kids, or whoever else have faced violent crimes, they shouldn't get the same type of manpower. So I think that's more concerning. Write letters about that. Open up cases about that. Go petition about that. Go march about that. The judge admitted that there was more manpower put into this case to put an end to this alleged hoax of a hate crime than they put into murder cases. That he's seen being on the bench that they put into murder cases. The entire world demanded that this case be solved. Then when it got solved, because it wasn't solved in the direction that they wanted it to be solved in, now it's not fair. That's just not, it's not how the system works. You wanted a criminal to get caught. I'm sure you didn't expect that criminal to be Jussie Smollett, but nevertheless, that's who it was. And that criminal got caught, and now we're here. There is word from Jussie's camp that his attorney, as they should, they're appealing. They did an emergency motion, and they've cited several reasons as to why they think he should get out, mainly because it's going to take like 18 months for his appeal of his conviction to even go through at minimum, especially with COVID. So he'll be done with his sentence, that he should be at least out awaiting appeal. Be out, while we're waiting on what the appeal outcome is. And then also, they said he had some type of health issues, but they didn't specify what they were. They had something from a doctor that says so he would be at risk for COVID with whatever health issues they are. And then he lists what all the appeal issues would be, which we all heard in court when they did their post motions before. So they're still going hard. Like I said before, I feel like Jussie's team has fought hard for him. They have gone hard in the paint, and he has gotten every dime worth. Now, again, His family is running his page now, running Jussie's page now, and they still blaming everybody. I mean, they said the special prosecutor also represented Trump's kids. I guess they said Judge Lynn, who did the sentencing and presided over the trial, they said his wife gave some contributions to Trump's campaign or something related to Trump. I mean, they try everything to try to say this, but I think what they're forgetting is that a jury of his peers found him guilty of 5 out of 6 counts. Anyways, that's my opinion. Now, I've gave you enough information so that you can come up with your own opinion. If you could please comment below, subscribe. I want you to share. I want you to like, and I want us to discuss this so that we can all respectfully now, but we can all come put our opinions in the comments on what we think about Jussie Smollett's sentencing, whether it was too harsh, whether it was just right, or maybe it wasn't enough. But whatever it is, please let us know. As always, this is Pam Esquire, known as the Law Intellect. Please subscribe, like, share, and let everyone know about our channel. Until next time.